So let me begin by this way. Our whole body is made up of blood vessels. And like I said, they are blood vessels that carry blood to all tissues in our body. And they are called the arteries. And they are blood vessels that drains wasted blood from all the systems and the tissues and the cells. They are called the veins. It is just like water coming to your house through the pipe and the sewage leaving your house. If water only comes to your house and there's no sewage drainage, your house will be flooded. So the rate at which the water comes is the same as the rate at which the water moves out. So there will be no piling of water there. The body operates the same system which I would have shown on the diagram. But that's fine. So for all this part of the body, we have blood moving in and blood moving out. Now the brain is supplied by some major blood vessels, major arteries, that supply blood to the brain. Now, if this blood supply to the brain is cut off, then the brain begins to starve of oxygen, food, all the things that are carried there. So then the tissue begins to die. The brain tissue begins to die. And that is what we call stroke. So stroke is a disease of the brain. But then it has to do with the blood vessels. So just like if a heavy car passes on your pipe that leads to your house, the pipe may burst. Then you will not have water in the house. In the same way that if something blocks the blood flow to the brain begins to die. It will not have blood supply to the brain, and that is what we call stroke. And that normally happens suddenly. So that is why it's called an accident. There are two ways by which the brain could be deprived of blood supply. And that gives rise to the two types of stroke. It is the type of stroke that will determine the type of treatments you must get. And this is where the herbal practitioners who don't do scan to verify the kind of stroke a person has before they treat, they get it wrong. Because if the water supply to your house is cut off, you must check whether it is the pipe that is burst or something has choked the pipe. Either of this has a different treatment to the pipe. The plumber will handle it differently. If the pipe has burst because a bigger car passed on it, the plumber will cut and join. Then you get a water supply. If something has choked the pipe that is bringing water to your house, the plumber will take it off, will take off the blockade, the water will flow. The plumber will not just come and just do anything at all because water is not coming to your house. You trace the cause first. And therefore, if a person suffers stroke, the first thing that needs to be done is to check the type of stroke that the person has gotten. And that will determine the treatment. Now, two things happens that prevents the blood from getting to the brain. One of them is that the blood vessels become weaker. You know, anytime the heart pumps the blood vessels opens to accommodate the blood before it closes. So the blood vessels are elastic in nature, that is the arteries. The veins are not elastic, but the arteries are elastic to be able to open to accommodate the blood and close like that. So when it becomes stiffened, then there's a problem. But that is not even it. The walls of the blood vessels become weaker, especially with smoking. It becomes very weak. So when the pressure is going, you know, the head is facing gravity. So therefore, the amount of pressure that we need to send the blood to the brain must be high. And that will mean that the blood vessels must also be strong to accommodate that kind of pressure going there. So if we engage on activity that weakens the walls of the blood vessels, then one day the blood vessels can rupture. And when it ruptures, then blood cannot get to the brain, and that gives rise to stroke. Or else, the blood vessels can be okay, intact, but then if we do not regulate our blood pressure, I think most of us have stayed in a place where the blood pressure, where the water pressure was very, very high. Maybe if you stay closer to the dam where the blood pressure, the water pressure is very, very high, it can take off your WC, whatever it is, it can rupture and your whole room will become flooded. In the same way, if we do not check our blood pressure, and the blood pressure is beyond normal, the body can accommodate this for a while, but at a point in time, it will be looking for a point of weakness. A point of weakness. And when it gets a point of weakness closer to the brain, it ruptures. Then blood will not get into the brain. This kind of stroke is called hemorrhagic stroke. Hemorrhagic because hemorrhage is rupture of the blood vessels. Blood cannot get into the brain. When this happens, there is a 50% chance that the person will survive. And this is the deadliest kind of stroke. So when this happens, it is the CT scan that will unveil that this is what is happening. Then the clinicians will attend to it quickly. So that's one type of stroke. The other type of stroke is that a clot may be formed in the blood, or the blood vessels will be thickened because of deposition of fatty tissues or fat or plate. So when the fat gets deposited in the blood vessels, it's like the lumen of the blood vessels or where the blood is flowing become narrowed. So it can become narrowed to the point that it closes up. Or if it doesn't close up, any little clot that is flowing through the blood, the clot could be going round. When it gets to that point, it lodges in that narrowed place. I should have shown you this on the diagram. It gets choked in that narrow place. When it gets choked there, then it blocks the blood vessel from sending blood to the brain. So the brain begins to have what we call ischemia. Ischemia means deprivation of oxygen to the brain. So that kind of stroke is called ischemic stroke. Whether the blood vessel has been ruptured, or there is ischemia, blood is not getting to the brain. So they all give rise to stroke. So these are the two major kinds of stroke. So stroke is when blood is not arriving in the brain and the brain tissue begins to die. That is called stroke. And it happens all of a sudden. The warnings are not directly linked to the stroke, but they are more of the predisposing factors. Well, one can talk about a third type, which is really not a third type. But if you like, there's another third type called the TAI. That is the transient ischemic attack. TIA. Transient ischemic attack. That one, a clot may block the blood vessel at a point, but it doesn't stay for long. So the brain begins to die, then it gets dislodged, then blood flows. So this one, normally it doesn't last for long. It's just a sweeping stroke. So we call it transient. That is short-lived kind of stroke. People call it a third type of stroke. But that is also ischemic, but it did not stay for long. So sometimes, even the patient himself may not realize that he got stroke or whatever it is. It is the CT scan that can tell that there was an ischemic attack at a point in time. So what it means is that we are trying to prevent the blood vessels from rupturing, one, and two, we are trying to also prevent the blood vessels from getting clogged by either the lumen thickening to close up or a clot that is going to lodge at a place to prevent the brain from getting oxygen. So these are the two types of stroke. Now, so what happens when a person gets stroke? Now the brain is a switchboard for all activities for the body. If I say it's a switchboard, it's like those switchboard on our walls that has all the fuse for all the house. So if you take this fuse, the light will go off. If you take this fuse, you can't get your microwave. If you take this fuse, your fridge will go off. I believe you all know that one. And the brain is like that. So my hand that I'm lifting is controlled by my brain. So I wanted to have shown the diagram of the brain. We have the temporal lobe here. It's for thinking, it's for reasoning. Don't look at my forehead. The frontal lobe. You have the frontal lobe, the temporal lobe, the occipital lobe, you know. These lobes, the frontal lobe is for thinking, reasoning, and all those mathematical thinking. So,
Prof, since you have the picture, can you just show us on the...
Yeah, slide. So we can pass it around.
Like, we can, like, maybe just show it to us. But I saw you have the...
So this one explains what each part of the hand does.
You can hold it.
The brain does. Okay.
I can't see well.
Wear your glasses. So what happens is that there is a part of the brain that controls speech. As I'm talking right now, there's a part of the brain that is controlling what I'm saying and how even my tongue, the L and the R and everything. There's a part of the brain that is controlling it. There's a part of the brain that is controlling my hand, even my eye, how I'm seeing. There's a part of the brain that is doing that. So all these things are scattered on the brain. So maybe I'll send a slide to the on the this thing.
Oh, you say L and
R.
R.
I am from Ashanti region, but I didn't pick that in. Okay, so all these things are controlled by the brain. The switchboard is there. Okay, so what happens? If a person gets stroke and it affects that area where the speech is there, then you can't talk. That is all. So if it affects where this hand is, you can't talk. Now, to start with, the brain is made up of two hemispheres, two halves, left and right. Now, the left part of the brain controls the right side of the body. This left side of my brain is controlling this my hand. And the right side of the brain controlling this left.
Crisscross.
Crisscross, thank you very much. That is, so the diagram is there, you can see it. So there is that crisscross. So if a stroke attacks, if you look at a stroke patient's face, you can know which part of the brain that has been attacked. Why? Because these muscles of my face here is controlled by this part of my brain. I hope you are not concentrating my body. And this part of my brain is controlling this part of my face. Okay. Now, the reason why my face is correct now is because the muscles are pulling at the same rate. So it's like a tug of war. This person is pulling, so they are all pulling at the same time. So therefore, there is no imbalance. But if this side of my brain dies, that is controlling this part of my face, then the muscles here become stronger than the muscles here. So my mouth will now move to this direction. So if a person's mouth moves toward this direction, it's this part of the brain that has been attacked. In the same way, if this part of the brain is attacked, then the facial muscles here become weak. So therefore, the muscles here become stronger, so the mouth moves toward that direction. So in physiotherapy treatment, the physiotherapy will now begin to work on the facial muscles so that they regain their energy to return to normalcy. Therefore, the body has what we call symmetrical. It's divided into two direct pieces like that. So the extent of the damage determines the extent of the paralysis. So sometimes, if it affects the place that controls my hand, then this hand cannot pick, but the leg can go. So it is like how many switchboards do you take off, or how many fuses do you take off? Then how many gadgets cannot work? And also, the further away the blockade or the hemorrhage, the more the damage. And the closer, if you look at one of the slides, it's there. And the closer it is, because it's like, okay, now, if the blood vessel is going from here, supplying all this place, if you cut it here, then all this place will be gone. But if you cut it here, then few places will be gone. So it's like, if they put off light from a far place, then a lot of houses will experience light off. But if it's closer to your house, then few houses. That is the kind of thing. So it depends on where the stroke or where the hemorrhage occurred. Then it will show how many places will be affected. So, therefore, that is why a stroke patient will not have, it is sometimes difficult to have both places paralyzed. Most of the times, it is one side that gets paralyzed. That gets massaged and it will come back to it. So that is the two kinds of stroke that we have. It is because blood is not getting to the brain, and the brain is the switchboard for every activity in our body. Talking, seeing, smelling, everything. If you look at one of the diagrams, it will tell you every organ in the body is the switchboard is the brain. So once the brain is attacked, then everything gets attacked. So if you put off the switch, the bulb will go off. Now, if the bulb go off, there's no problem with the bulb, but there's a problem with the source of power. Okay, so if you go and buy a new bulb and put it there, it will still not work. What you need to do is work on the switch, then it will come on. Good. So in stroke, this is how it goes. There are two ways of handling stroke. First one is like you stop the stroke, then you begin repairs. It's like the house is on fire. If the house is on fire, you don't invite the painter, you don't invite the carpenter, you don't invite the plumber to come and start doing them while the fire is still on. But if you first call the fire service to come and put on the fire, when everything places cools down, then you bring in the artisans to come and do the repairs. So stroke has two phases. The first phase is to put on the fire. So the person must be rushed to the physician. So if you have relatives in Ghana who are having this, please give the advice. Because I know what is going on back in Ghana. We operated a stroke center for several years in Ghana. Green Hill Stroke Rehabilitation Center. You can Google and see it. Now, it's a rehabilitation center, but it is not a stroke center. Real stroke is handled by physicians. So go to the doctor, let the doctor see what kind of stroke, and let him stop it. If it is a clot, it's easy. He will just give you a medication that will lyse or that will melt the clot. Then there will be blood flow. Depending on the size of the clot. So they give this medication that will lyse, or that lysing means that it will break it. And if there is a clot in the blood vessels, it's called thrombus. Thrombus. So it's called embolus. But when you begin to move, it's called a thrombus. So if there's a thrombus in the deep vein, then it's called deep vein thrombosis. So these are not just big words. It's just a matter of where it is found and deep vein thrombosis. So this thrombus can begin to move. When you get to a smaller vessel, then you get clogged, then it causes a stroke. So what they are trying to say is that they may give you some medication that will thin the blood, that will clot it so that it will not affect you. Now, these blood thinners are dangerous to take it on your own. It must be under prescription, like aspirin. If you take it on your own and you go overboard, the overboard effect is more dangerous, even than using it. So you don't go and take them yourself. Let a physician prescribe it for you. But the first point of call when there is stroke is a physician. When he put off the fire, he is able to establish the cause of the stroke and he stops it. The rest is for the rehabilitation. It is like the fire service has done their work, so the physicians are more like the fire service. They have stopped it, they know the cause of the fire, they stop it now, let the carpenter come in, let the mason come in, let the painter come in to come in. And that's when the physios or the rehabilitation team will now come in. You begin to now learn how to speak. The speech therapist will come in and all those things. The rest is rehabilitation. So therefore, you now make use of a rehabilitation center where you now learn how to walk, you now learn how to talk, depending on how far the stroke has occurred. But what people do is that when they get a stroke, they do not go to the physician. They go straight to rehabilitation because it's like they have gotten stroke. So let them start repairs. Now, they die a lot because the one giving the treatment does not even know the cause. And they've not even done any X-ray. And a lot of places may have X-ray machine, they don't know how to interpret the X-rays. So they will just deceive you by saying, oh, I'm talking about people who are at our place. They'll just go and take X-ray, but the person doesn't even know how to interpret the X-ray. But you think they have taken the X-ray, and they'll begin the treatment. So let them go to a proper hospital, a certified physician, who can interpret the cause and make sure that everything is stopped. So when they say go home and be reported, that is the rehabilitation phase of the stroke, which you have to do. The physiotherapy will come in at intervals or may even train you what to do to curb that situation. Now, I think we are more interested in how do we prevent it. You know, a lot of times people think that they can see stroke coming, so they can stop it. It is called accidents. So accidents, you can prevent a lot of them, but a true accident is an accident. So therefore, stroke is preventable, yes. How do you prevent it? You prevent the predisposing factors. The things that can lead to stroke are the ones you can prevent. So you don't even get to the point where you're going to get a stroke. So there are a lot of things that you can do to prevent stroke, and one of them is not smoking. Why? Because smoking actually increases blood pressure. One, it also weakens the blood vessels. So once a person is smoking, then you are making yourself more prone to stroke. Two, blood pressure regulation. This is the key culprit from where we are coming from. Not globally, because there are some parts of the world, they are very, very conscious about their blood pressure. But where we are coming from, especially Ghana, we found out that the first day that a lot of people saw that they had stroke, they had hypertension, was the day they had stroke. The first day, yes, they have a lot of cases like that. The first day that they saw they were hypertensive was the day they had stroke. And the doctor or the physician told them that you are hypertensive. And this was caused by hypertension. Which means that we've neglected all our health issues. And I don't know the cause of that neglect. Neglect is one of them. Religion is another. Even Christianity is another cause. By faith. We all have faith. But you see, the brain that God has given us is also an asset. It's a gift. Our brain is a gift. So Christianity is not to lose your brains. Christianity means that use your brains very well. Now, if God has provided something for you to guard yourself and you deny it, there's no other deliverance for you again. That is all He has for you. So our brains is a gift from God. So if God has given us brains and knowledge, what did He say? He said, my people perish for lack of knowledge, not lack of spiritual knowledge. Lack of knowledge. So that is why we are here to learn, so that we can take our health into our hands. Now, if you leave your health to only the physician, how many hours do you spend in his consulting room? So that you leave everything. It is what you will tell him that he will also continue from there. So I think that we should be concerned about our blood pressure, because this blood pressure does not even tell us that it is high. So people neglect it. But once you are able to keep your blood pressure low, you are able to keep it low, then you are free from stroke. But once you leave it high, yes, sometimes it can go extremely high, then you are rushed to the hospital. Then they bring it down. Now, one of the things is this. If you drop your blood pressure low, all of a sudden it can lead to stroke. And if it goes high, so when it is that high, they will not even bring it down suddenly. They will slow it down, because A sudden drop can lead to stroke. But anytime it goes very high to a point, it causes some damage before it brings it down. So the damage keep on going, and think you are fine. One day it goes and it doesn't come. So blood pressure regulation is a key thing. And in fact, from where we are coming from, I always say from where we are coming from, because the data is different from the populations. But from where we are coming from, about 90% of people are having stroke due to high blood pressure. And I think that we should be mindful about regulating our blood pressure. Once we keep it low, then we are fine. Diabetes is another thing. It also affects the blood vessels. Diabetes can lead to high blood pressure. So once you don't handle your diabetes very well, then you make yourself prone to high blood pressure, then that leads to the stroke. Our diet is also one of the culprits. We are not careful about what we eat. We just eat anyhow. I've already said that after 40 years, you eat to survive, you don't survive to eat. So if you want to live for long, you are careful about what you eat. We have eaten all that we have to eat when we were children. Now, let's eat to live. So, you should be careful, you should be concerned about what you... I'm not talking about we punishing ourselves. It doesn't call for punishment. And sometimes, it doesn't even call for the wife to punish their husbands. That's not what we are trying to say. But we should be careful, we should be conscious about what we are. I went for that class. So I didn't just sit there and assume. I went for a complete diet class to actually know what I should eat and what I shouldn't eat and that kind of thing. And it helped me a lot because I had a lot of assumptions. But when I went to the diet class, they actually told me a lot of things that were not good for me and the ones that were good for me. So I eat with caution now and not just to eat anything at all. Our lifestyle, that is exercising, is so important. So after eating, we need to walk for about 15 minutes or whatever. That will be more for diabetes case. So basically, what we are trying to do is that let's do some exercise. It helps a lot because even exercise can stop this clot. If you sit at a long place, the blood stays and it can cause clotting. So when the blood stays for long without movement, there's tendency that there can be clotting. Now when that clot forms, begin to be big and begin to move gradually through the blood vessels, and this can lead to stroke. So once we stop all those things, then we are actually stopping stroke. But once our eyes are not on those ones, then it's like any day stroke can just walk in, and that is it. So these things that are measured, our lifestyle change, where we need to exercise, our diet, sleeping is also very important. Rest can help us a lot. Then we check our diet and we check our blood pressure, taking our medication. Sometimes when we have taken medication, the blood pressure becomes normal. We think that we have been cured, so that is fine. But you don't know that it is the medication that brought the blood pressure down normal. So once you stop the medication, you go up. It is just like you have compressed a spring, and the spring is now low like that. You can't say that, oh, the spring is okay, so don't leave it. If you leave it, it will come back. So it is the drug that took it there. So when you are normal, don't think you are normal. You are normal because you have taken the drug. But when you leave the drug, it will, and the blood pressure begins to, so if you have the machine, once a week, just do measurement. If you are taking some herbal concoction, whatever, I'm not condemning it. But what I'm trying to say is that once you are taking those things, keep on monitoring your blood pressure. If that concoction is working, if it's working, fine. But if it's not working, then you have to jump in to take your medications. Now, how do you respond if somebody is getting stroke? Because of the fast, F-A-S-T, fast. Now, when the stroke occurs and you are with the person, look at the person's face. If the person is able to smile, smiling means that all the facial muscles must smile like this. But if one side is smiling and one side cannot smile, then stroke is coming in. So let the person smile for you to see if the facial muscles are all working well. If one has dropped and one is okay, stroke is coming in. That's face. So F stands for face. Now, A stands for arm. Let the person lift the two arms. So if the person can lift this one well and lift this one well, that's fine. But if one is dropping, then stroke is coming. That's the A, S. That is speech. Let the person talk. If the speech is okay, but if it's a slurred kind of speech, then we also know that something, because the speech center can also be attacked. Then, so face,
Fast.
face, speech. Then T, speed. That is all. Speed, because it's a 911, because it's fire service. Fire service, stop it first before any other thing. Then you are fine with that. So, how many minutes have I done? So I think we can move on to.
32.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, so we can move on to the, what do you call it, the diabetes.
And please give room for questions. I have a series of questions.
Yes, so when I'm 10. When I'm done with this, I'll come back to that. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about diabetes here. Diabetes, obviously, we are talking about the sugar. That is the mellitus. Diabetes mellitus. We have another diabetes called diabetes insipidus. That's what we're talking about. Excessive urination, which is not sugar issue. That one is not very common one. Mellitus. Now the mellitus come in two. There's one which is normally comes on early because of the person doesn't have insulin. That is not very common. For us, it's the type 2 that is the issue. The type 2 means that the type 1, there is not enough insulin, so the person will have to be on insulin to. Insulin is a hormone that causes the cell to take glucose. Now, let me start from this point. When we eat, carbohydrates ends up in a form called glucose. It's just like getting a crude oil, but you need petrol in your car. So the crude oil is made up of kerosene, diesel, petrol, Vaseline, bitumen, plenty things are made out of crude oil. So digestion would, this is what digestion would do. It will break down the food and release the glucose, like your petrol for you. But that petrol is not useful till you put that petrol in your car. And your car uses it, then it benefits you. Okay. So, what is insulin? Insulin is a hormone or a chemical in the body that actually opens your cell. It's like a key that opens your cell so that glucose can enter into your cell and go and get burnt to produce energy for you. So let me link it to. So you have your car, you have your petrol tank, but then there is a key that you use to open your fuel tank. So insulin is just like the key that will open your fuel tank so that you can put in the fuel. The fuel is the glucose, so that you can burn it and get energy. So for the type 1 people, they don't have the key at all. So they must get a key to open. The type 2 people, they have the key. And every key has got a lock. Okay? So having a key is not just a good news, but the key should be able to open your lock. Okay, so for the type 2, they have the key, but there's a problem with the lock. So even though you have the key, you are not able to, and you got into the fuel station, you want to get fuel into your car, you open the tank and the tank is not opening. So there's a balance of fuel. Your car needs fuel, but your key cannot open your fuel tank, so you cannot put in the fuel. That is the type 2 diabetes. So insulin is a hormone which is produced by the body, a place called the pancreas. So the pancreas has a cell which is called isolate of Langerhans, which actually produces insulin. So insulin is the key that opens our cells so that glucose can enter and burn to give energy to us. So, what is the main problem with type 2 diabetes? The main problem of type 2 diabetes is that we are not sensitive to insulin. So our problem is that insulin sensitivity is our problem. We are insensitive to insulin. Now, so this is what happens. This is a mechanism that goes on. Let me try and make it very simple. So what happens is that anytime you eat, your insulin level goes high. The pancreas responds by producing insulin. Then the insulin will now open the cells so you can now use the glucose. Now, one of the places the insulin opens is the liver. The liver serves as a storage and also a factory for glucose. So the insulin will open the liver gate so that glucose can go there. The muscles is also a place that we use sugar a lot. So the muscle cells, the insulin will open it so that sugar will enter there, and the fat cells. But as we grow, after the 40 years, there is a shift of hormonal imbalance. So therefore, our body becomes insensitive to glucose. One of the things that lead to insulin insensitivity is that once you eat, the sugar level goes high. And the insulin level also go high. Once the sugar level go high, the body also produces insulin to commensurate it. I mean, that is the kind of reaction that is happening. Now it goes high. Now when it goes high, and the insulin is not able to open the cells for the cells to take up the glucose, then a signal or a message will be sent to the pancreas that, look, we have a lot of sugar. Why are we not getting them into the cells? Then the pancreas will say, okay, let me give you more insulin. The more insulin will come. It's like you are calling somebody and the person is not hearing. What do? You shout. And you keep on shouting. Hey, I'm calling you. You keep on shouting. So the shouting of the cell is like, the shouting of the body is like, let me produce more insulin. So once you have taken high carbohydrate diet, your body will respond by high insulin. And so once your body is exposed to high insulin, we call it sugar spike. Now when your sugar spikes, your insulin level will also spike. Now once your body is exposed to recurrent insulin spike, then your body is now going to resist this insulin. That's one mechanism. Your body is not going to resist. So that is one of the causes of insulin insensitivity. So a time will come, your body is fed up with this insulin thing. So the insulin comes and it's not able to work as it's supposed to work. So that what happens now? You find out that it is like the insulin is knocking at the door of the cells. Open. I want to bring in glucose. And the doors will not be open because the lock is spoiled. Now, sometimes the lock itself is spoiled, so the key cannot even go into it. The other time, the door, the lock is there, it's not spoiled, but then the engine of the key is not turning. We call it signal pathway. So there is a receptor there. So if it is a cell that is supposed to use the glucose, there is a receptor there like this, and this is insulin. So it's like a lock and key. Insulin will come and bind to it like this, then the door will open, and sugar will enter, glucose will enter. But if the receptor is denatured, then I'll not even get a place to bind. Or the receptor is not denatured, but when I bind, the crank is not able to move. So whichever the case may be, the door is still closed, so glucose cannot enter. So we have high glucose level, and that is why you go and check fasting glucose level, and it's very, very high. But you see, that test is not the ultimate test, because the glucose level can even be low, but then the insulin level is high. So they are supposed to also test insulin level. If the insulin level is very, very high, then it's completely you have the diabetes. But we test only sugar and leave the insulin level. So therefore, sometimes some diabetic patients are missed out in this test. because the insulin level is very, very high. Now, let me come back to the high level of insulin. That is the crux of the matter. So therefore, in the liver, the insulin opens the door of the liver cells, the hepatic cells, that will take the glucose, and if the glucose is in excess, it will convert it to a form that is not digestible and keep it. It's called glycogen. So it's like you cook a lot for your party or for your house, and you are not able to eat all the food, and you freeze it. When you freeze it, you cannot eat the frozen food. But anytime you want to eat it, you have to thaw it before you eat it. So there is another hormone called glucagon, also produced by the pancreas. So at the day that you are fasting, that there is no glucose in your body, or when you wake up in the morning and not eating, glucagon will come and now thaw or break down the glycogen into glucose for your body to use. So whether you have eaten or not, your sugar level should not change so much, because the glucagon will come and bring out the stored glucose in the form of glycogen and break it into glucose for your body to use. If you have excess, insulin will convert it into glycogen and keep it there. But here's the case. Even the liver is not responding to the insulin. So what do we do now? If the liver is not responding to the insulin, then the glucose level begins to increase in the blood, and the pancreas is still producing more glucose, and this glucose is not being used. So therefore, the liver will now convert the excess glucose into fat, and store it in the liver. And I believe you are thinking about the disease now. It will give birth to what? Fatty liver. Fatty liver. So if diabetes is not checked, it leads to fatty liver. Because here, the glucose is too much, and when the glucose is too much, it will not convert it into fat. Now, high level of glucose is not only for the body to use glucose, but then if the insulin level is very, very high, insulin stops the body from using any other form of energy except glucose. And here the glucose is also not going in. Because if the body is not having glucose, the body will use proteins or fats. But here the case, the high level of insulin is preventing the body from using any other source of energy. So what this means is that the glucose must be converted into fat and stored in the liver, and that's fatty liver. And so once you are not able to beat down your sugar level, then you are now moving your body to, in fact, the complications are not pleasant at all. Now, when the sugar levels are high in your body, this one thing that happens. You know, microorganisms in the body, they like sugar. Especially the microorganisms that feed on the sore. If a person gets a sore, and you are treating the sore, the drug you put into the sore is actually not curing the sore. But the drug is killing the organisms that is chopping on your flesh for the sore to be alive. So treatment means that you are killing any other organism that is feeding on the sore, so your body will repair itself. Let me give you an example. Your house is broken by some thugs. They came to break down some part of the house. Now, you are building and they are still broken. You are building, so you can never get anywhere. But once you are able to stop them, and you make the police stop them from coming to your house, then you can build it. So the body has its own mechanism of repairing itself without any help. Anytime you have a cut, your body, God put a mechanism in your body for it to see this wound healing physiology, it can heal itself properly. But the problem is that whilst it is repairing itself, some organisms are chopping it. So you put a plaster there to seal them. You treat it with alcohol to kill them. So your body can repair itself. That's all. That is why a dead body cannot repair itself. So if a dead body doesn't have a cut, you cannot treat it for it to heal. But once your cell is alive, it can heal itself. So what happens in diabetes when the sugar level is high? When the sugar level is high, these organisms, they are happy because they thrive in sugar. So it will never get healed. And that is what leads to amputation. Because you are feeding the organisms very, very well. They are getting stronger. So like those who are breaking your house, you are actually strengthening them. Everyone, you give them nice food to eat. so they can have power to come and build the house without work. You are not depriving them. So basically, when the soil begin to produce toxins, now toxins are chemicals that are not good for your body. These toxins normally are around the soil. But if the soil progresses, then the toxins now become systemic. What do I mean by systemic? It begins to now move into your bloodstreams. And when it moves to your bloodstreams, it is getting to your heart. When it gets into your heart, it will be pumped to your whole body and you die. So what is amputation? Amputation means that the gates where they can cut and stop the spread of that toxins, so that those toxins will not get to your heart. So they get a cleaner place, cut that place, and surgically treat that place so that you'll be free from those toxins. So anytime you are getting amputation, you are saving your heart. Because the moment those toxins enter your heart, it becomes systemic and you can't control it. It's just like a person getting snake bites. In the village, when a person gets snake bite, you tie some tourniquet there, preventing the poison from going to the top. Because when the poison gets to the heart, you can't stop it again. It becomes systemic. So when you have untreated diabetes, this is what happens. So normally when you go to diabetes clinic, and if you have diabetes, please go to diabetes clinics. They have what they call centering diabetes, where they put a lot of diabetics. I was diagnosed with diabetes type 2. That's why I know all these things. And I attended classes, but now I don't have diabetes again. I reversed it with fasting. So you go there, they put you in classroom, then they will teach you what to do and what not to do. And they have to examine your food regularly. Because when there's a small cat and they don't take care of it, it becomes a problem. So once you develop it and you know the mechanism that brought it, it's a lifestyle that brought it, nothing else. So when you reverse the lifestyle, it goes. The way in is the same way out. The things you eat, you can't have carbohydrates. So you know what carbohydrate is. They give you a list of food that contain carbohydrates. Stay away from them. If you want to eat this portion. That is all. The order in which you eat is also very important. Then they will teach you what to do. Fasting is a very good, in fact, I wish one day we take fasting. Not spiritual or physical one. People have fasted their cancer off. Fasting can even cure cancer. Because the more you starve the cancer cells, and they go off. So fasting has got so many benefits. But I don't even know who taught us that we should eat 3 times a day. and we are just eating like that. Now, you find out that this, you don't eat when you are not hungry. You don't eat when you are not hungry. Because when you are not hungry, it means your body doesn't need it. But we force ourselves and we keep our time. Hey, my time is up. No. It's not time. Snack is totally out. The mouth must sleep. Snack is not your friend again. Snack it's not supposed to. No, you have to restrict your food, your diet. Eat about 8 hours intervals. Yeah. It's about 8 hours. Delay your breakfast. You see, when we do this, we are trying to train our body. And we are trying to resolve these issues. So once you stay away from carbohydrates, once you are able to even sleep, because when you don't sleep well, there's a hormone called cortisol. It's a stress hormone. And the cortisol level, it changes within the day. Now, a study was conducted, I think the highest level of cortisol around 9 a.m. I don't know whether that's the time that the debtors come and collect their money. Because it's a stress hormone. So it comes to help you when you're in stress. And I don't know whether 9 o'clock in the morning is the pile of stress or whatever it is. But the stress level is very high. So when you are waking up, that cortisol is come to help you go through your stress. So if you don't sleep well, your cortisol level rises high, and when the cortisol level rises high, you have to burn a lot of glucose to survive that stress. And so insulin level also goes high. So the higher the level of the cortisol, the higher the level of glucose. So that is why most of the time in the morning, the glucose level is very, very high. The cortisol level is very, very high. So if you don't sleep well in the night, you can't dodge it. Your cortisol level will go very, very high. Even though you are fasting, your sugar level will skyrocket. So pressure and depression, stress is a cause of diabetes. It is not only food, stress. So once you take the stresses off, you are able to also save yourself from getting the diabetes. And we have a diet. I'm talking about diet, stress, and some medication. But that one, I mean, your physician will handle that one for you. I mean, you don't have to be taking certain medications to aggravate the situation. But then, if you are diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, you see, we used to think that diabetes has no cure, but it's not true. It's curable. I am a living testimony. I've got it. My A1C, that is, it measures your 3 months average of glucose usage. So don't take just a spot of glucose level to make a case. But the A1C level is very, very, very important. It's very, very high, almost 10. But I told the doctor that, wait, give me some few months, I'll come back. I went and he was surprised. I'm not normal. So when I went to my wife. So when he was addressing me, he said, when you used to have diabetes, I said, past tense. You know, you can reverse it with a change in lifestyle. You can reverse it when you are conscious about your diet, when you are conscious about the things you do and all those things. If you are on medication, I'm not asking you to stop. But once you are doing the medication, also balances your lifestyle and you'll be fine. There are a lot of clinics who will train you on how to. One of the things that you be careful about is your food. That I have my glucometer with me. So what I did was that I look at the food. After I've eaten the food, I wait for about 2 hours. When the food has been digested and the sugar has been, then I check. And sometimes the values are serious. Then I know that this food is not good for me. So by that, I have developed my own plan. Because a food may be good for one person, it may not be good for you. Also, rice, for instance, has a very high glycemic index. Rice has a very high glycemic index. Yam, serious. So you go to the net and look at the food with high glycemic index and stay away from them. But later discovery shows that rice, if you cook it overnight and you put it in the fridge, the glycemic index falls. Yeah, so I do it and I eat.
So when you work with
No, it doesn't count. You know, so this is the sign behind that. This is the sign behind that. The sign behind it is that when you cook it and you leave it overnight and you freeze it, it converts it. Not frozen as deep freezer, but in an ordinary fridge. What happens is that it converts the digestible glucose to indigestible glucose. So when you eat it, your body cannot digest that kind of glucose. So it gives you satiety, but you don't have the glucose. So that is so what I'm trying to say is that be concerned about your health. Read about your health. And this kind of experiment you can do it for yourself.